All right. Welcome to the 18th live stream on my channel. My name is Joshua Kemble. I'm a freelance illustrator, cartoonist. I'm also a full-time art director. I've been doing graphic design and comics for over 15 years. And this is the live stream where I walk people through the process of me working on the second volume of this book, Two Stories. This is book one, which you can get on Amazon. It is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. And this is kind of the volume of the book that deals with depravity and mental illness. And then the second book is where it starts getting into the redemption and faith part. So anyhow, it's a comic that I spent a good 5 years executing, very detailed and stuff like that. So you'll get pretty cool pages, and I for most people who've read it, they enjoy it. So you can pick that up on Amazon.com, Two Stories. And right now I'm working on the thumbnails for page 91 of the comic. So it's been pretty hectic. I didn't end up doing a live stream yesterday because I got wrapped up in kind of a top secret project that I'm glad to have completed somewhat. And now, like, my hope is to kind of get moving on my comic again. So I feel like I lost a day, but it was worth it. And I can't wait to share what I was working on yesterday when I was unable to stream. So in the meantime, I also have some pretty cool news before I get into working, which is my friend Corey Kerr and I, who've run a show called the 48-Hour Art Check for quite a while now, just launched our first indie review show. And so it's the IRS, our indie review show, where we reviewed the book Limbo that was published by Image Comics, and Corey kind of walks through it. It's a show where we're basically going to review independent comic books and movies and films, and mostly comics, and kind of explain like comics that we own and have inspired us in our work, and kind of come at it a review from that angle, like what we can pull and be inspired by from the work that we're sharing. So that being said, our first episode went pretty well. We just went off air like about 20 minutes ago, so you can probably still catch it at Corey's channel. And if not, just go to irsagency.com and you can check out that show. I thought it went over pretty well. So that being said, I also forgot to share this out. So let me actually share real quick. Okay, so I'm going to share out the stream that I'm doing now, and then we're going to get into working, which should be pretty cool. So let's see here if I can find a good way to do that. You know what? Forget it. I'm not going to share it out. So, okay. I'm going to get into this and we'll see what happens. So let's take off the extras. Okay. So in the last sequence, I had this conversation that's happening between my friend and I, and I'm at this part of the script. So, and then I have, let's see, I'm almost through chapter 9. So I have like that many pages left, however many that is, to thumbnail before I've thumbnailed the entire book. And you'll notice these are really tight for thumbnails. They're usually a process that you kind of loosely work out a composition in. And in this case, yeah, I mean, they're a lot more detailed than you would imagine most thumbnails to be. And part of that is because these are also going to function as kind of like loose roughs, and will, in theory, like speed up my my time frame for getting the second issue done. So there we go. Okay, now what I usually do is make a copy of each thumbnail, and then that way I don't have to reinvent the wheel. So the PSD file that I'm doing these on has a template that's already preset. And then I divide the bars of panels into 3 so that it's easier to work from. I am excited. Like, the cool thing about this top secret project was I got to get into hand inking again. And that's something I did exclusively for every finished page. And I'll be doing with this as well, like hand lettering and hand inking everything. But it was nice to get back into like inking and doing a finished product, because I feel like the last few, months I've just been nonstop working on these thumbnails. So it was nice to like remember I can finish stuff. But I do think staying the course and getting this thumbnailed out will be good. And I feel freshly inspired from the indie review show that we did earlier today. So we'll see how this goes. Let me see real quick. I do want to send out one thing. Have to do this real carefully. It's some little caretaking stuff. So let me see where I'm at on that. And then we'll get into creating art and stuff, having some fun. All right, so let's see, where is that post? I've managed to lose the post, the very post I just sent. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to also do. Okay. And there we go. All right. So now let's get into it. So I took care of the house cleaning stuff, shared out the stream, and now we should be good to go. Okay. Now we're in this scene, and I want to make sure I have this all kind of worked out. But we're in this scene where we're going to have an outdoor sequence. The two characters are outside having a cigarette, which is not something I recommend people do. But when you're young and stupid, that's kind of what you do. Let me just see. I need to take a peek at the last page just to remember the order. So yeah, it's been like a frazzled day behind kind of few days. But I'm glad that our show went over well. And I'm glad I wrapped that extra project so I can get back in like the flow of kind of knocking these things out. Okay, so this says, it's not a bad call. You okay? Okay, that's good. That was the last line. So the last line is this sequence right here. And now we're going to do, okay. Now I'm going to divide my panels up. So I do have that. All right. So my hope is to knock these out in a knock this page out in a relatively short amount of time, a couple hours. And then I'm also doing the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge. And today would be the what day would it be? The 8th plus 1. So the 39th day of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge, which I should actually write that down. Okay. Okay. So here we go, and we're going to just knock this out. Okay. And it is funny, like my whole workstation is usually adjusted to a certain zone, but like for the indie review show, I had to kind of change the setup a little bit. So it's interesting trying to kind of get everything back in the flow and get things back going. I will say from that top secret project I was working on, it's funny, something I got pretty decent at, like when I was freelance. This is like far before I became an art director, and I was still kind of cutting my teeth in graphic design and illustration. I got known for like doing kind of a B movie poster style, like a vintage EC Comics kind of style to my stuff. And it was fun to kind of knock something out in that style again, because it's something that I got pretty good at. And it was kind of neat to like work on something and remember that I still got it, you know. Anyhow, okay, so here we go. It's going to say, okay. What's the last line again? Last line's here, now that I've got that worked out. Okay. See these different angles. Yeah, actually that kind of works. I like this angle, okay. So I kind of want to use this, actually, this exact angle, the first one, with almost exact expressions, which should speed up the process. Also, how did I forget his glasses in that sequence? It's one thing that's nice about thumbnails is you can kind of make adjustments like that and not have too much of a problem. Okay, so here we go, and it's gonna say that was some crazy shit. My son got some cool awards at his school today, and that was really neat. Like 4 awards, like academic awards, and that made me very proud. He's a smart kid, and it's an interesting thing when you're a parent, like kind of realizing that, you know. So there we go, and I think perfect. Okay, that is pretty much what I needed. Gonna download something that Corey sent me so I can set up the next thumbnail. We should be good. Pretty exciting. Okay. So this is gonna say, okay, this was gonna say that was some crazy shit. All right. So that secret project though was like trying to cram like a week's worth of work into a couple days. It's one of the tough things about Oh my gosh. Okay, this needs to say, yeah, one of the tough things about juggling limited time is like trying to do um, something extra with comics can be really difficult with our crazy schedules. Wasn't too bad, but it's just interesting how much that as I get older, like time is very valuable and limited, and being able to kind of parse enough time when you're sort of juggling a million projects is kind of crazy. So here we go, and we're kind of just working out this panel sequence. It's not going to be much different than the previous one. I like his expression for this, but I want to change mine a little bit. And let's see where the pose was pre. Another reason that it's great to break up panels like this is just so that when you're roughing things out, you're constantly being able to reference like previous stuff. So, okay. Let's see, this is the former last panel. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be something more like that. Okay. And these are just thumbnails, so I'm going to like very loosely kind of work them out. This is kind of a conversation sort of establishing the mindset before kind of, it's like the calm before the storm kind of thing. And I think this might work. We'll find out. I also have realized I've been doing all of these thumbnails digitally, and at some point I'm going to have to print them all out. And if I had been printing them from the beginning and kind of keeping them in a book, which is what I've done in the past when I do thumbnails, or when I do like digital work, it's just better to kind of keep a sequential printout of everything. It's going to take a while to print out, 90 something pages, but that is the bet I've made. So, and it'll probably be 100 and something when it's done. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my discombobulated thoughts today, and that was some crazy shit. That's pretty much the panel we've made so far. Okay. Okay. This next one, I want to reestablish, I think, it wouldn't hurt to reestablish the location, I'm thinking, although I just reestablished it a page earlier, so. Okay, and this is way too low. This panel should actually be higher. Double check the height of this. This is a little cheat. It's like you can kind of see like, okay, my measurement's off a little bit. Okay. I do want these kind of evenly spaced. So it was really inspiring to see the Limbo book that Corey was walking through, though. It was really pretty exciting paneling. Okay, here we go. Some things to think about that I might have to be inspired by for future thumbs. Let's see here. Just got a notification that I'm live on my channel. All right. Now we're gonna get into the next part. I want this to be kind of a trying to think like a longer shot, but not that tight. And I wonder if I've drawn it already on previous pages. That was an interesting angle. Maybe from above might be nice. Okay. Okay, so this is going to say, yeah, we'll see. At worst, it'll make a good story. This was a saying I used to have with friends, and I'm sure it's not like original. I'm sure there's other writers out there who have that kind of view, but especially when you write like autobio stuff, there used to be kind of this vibe of like, well, as bad as life gets, at least it'll make a good story, which actually isn't too bad of a motto to live by. I feel like there's going to be some really interesting stories coming out of this COVID era where everyone's locked down and sort of in these weird scenarios where, I mean, I can just imagine a lot of really fascinating stories from people, you know? I forgot there's a comma after at worst. Okay, there we go. And let's just have like an overhead shot. I don't know if an overhead shot's good here. Let me see. Yeah, I think an overhead shot might work. So it's going to be like this, hand up like that. Get those characters kind of mapped out. Okay. Once again, we're just doing thumbs, just trying to kind of map out the landscape, see how everything's working. In this case, it's going to be kind of a bit of an overhead, but not like an extreme overhead. And here I'm going to have an indication, because I think this is the last sentence in this part. So I think I might have an indication that Mai's character is walking outside to leave too. So with the dog. Okay, so that'll be a dog. Boom. Okay. So here it's going to be the sequence. And I think I'm going to have a panel of him putting out his cigarette. That's what I'm guessing for the next. I don't know if that'll fit, but I just feel like thematically to give it a pause and kind of end the sequence might be kind of good, since these characters are out smoking. It might be a nice little bookend to the part. So there's the hand. have this at the drive-in t-shirt that you guys are probably very used to like seeing. And then this is just going to be kind of like, well, a hand, open palms. There we go. Once again, just kind of working out a little sequence. And I think this will be good. So one thing I'll say is if you have like long conversation sequences, it doesn't hurt to like try to change up your narrative a little bit and your angle, your camera angle, because if you're constantly showing people, it kind of depends on the kind of story you want to do. Because I mean, there are like artists that I really admire. Like I always mention Chris Ware, and often he doesn't do crazy angles. Like he'll do sort of like almost like and I've noticed this with like one of my other favorite cartoonists, Roger Langridge. He'll do like these both of them, at least Roger Langridge with like Mugwump and Chris Ware with his comics, like they both have this like theatrical way of showing comics where it's like it doesn't change perspective a lot. It's usually almost like you're watching characters on a stage. And so it kind of follows like theater rules where it'll be like a side view and then the angle doesn't change much. Like you might kind of move in or move out a little bit, but it doesn't tend to like show like a fisheye view or like change perspectives that much. And it's kind of, I do like that. And I'll use that for timing sequences, but I do feel like I do like to kind of change it up if I can, just so things get a little more interesting, you know. And once again, it's like I think those shifts in perspective and stuff can kind of keep interest in a story, especially a conversation sequence that's lasting a really long time. But there's different reasons for different techniques and stuff. I always find that really kind of cool. And hopefully you guys do too. So here we go. Now we're kind of mapping out like this character, trying to do just a really loose overhead shot. I think we're both wearing Chucks. It's always a fun shoe. A lot of my characters will wear Chucks, but I think it's because, I mean, let's be honest, they're one of the best pairs of shoes you can get. Okay. So I also feel like, let's see here. Okay. I do want to keep it a little consistent with like this right here. The scenario I've got there. Okay. I'm going to have like this. I do like the idea of the dog coming out. I'm glad I remembered him. It's funny when you're working sequentially, you can kind of have like a dog in a scene. And then if you don't keep like the previous scenes nearby, you can kind of forget, at least I will. I'll actually forget that I had a dog or a different character like sitting there. And I don't know. I think it's one of the reasons why it's really good to have like a rough version of your previous page nearby, or access to all your previous pages and constantly be referencing them. So you're not, you know, forgetting to like include like a core character or something. It is funny, like once you start cracking open sequential work, it just becomes amazing how much more difficult it is. So to kind of accomplish these crazy things, much less like animations like my buddy Corey does. So I still have yet to work out a guest for Artcasters. So I think I will send out a query email regarding that too. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So then I'm going to basically have this little dude kind of running out. He's doing his thing in his crazy perspective. Just a weird, like, dog. Funny looking dog. Okay. And then there's the key. Yep. Okay. We're getting there. What's good is I actually think there'll be more inside of the house entryway, which is good for this perspective shot. So, not that this is a tight perspective, very loose. I'm going to look up, take a lot of photo references, like work out the perspective a lot more tight. This is just to give an idea, like a window. And then, of course, it's a little tighter, like I said, than most thumbnails, to hopefully save me some work in the latter end and like kind of thinking about it. Okay, so they're here. There's the walkway kind of goes here. And this is going to be and actually I want her carrying the bag, actually. The backpack. I was going to have her initially opening the door, and I think that's a little too on the nose. Like, we don't need to see her open the door. I actually want to kind of keep eyes on the bag, because inside of that bag in this story is a gun, which is like a classic way to kind of keep people interested in the story too. It's like, there's a dangerous thing in this bag. Okay, here we go. Kind of work that out. Let's see. Does not look like the character right here, but that's okay. Thumbnails. And we are at 30 minutes and we're almost 2 panels in. So she's going to be holding that leash. Let's see. Seattle shirt with the So yeah, it's been a really fascinating Monday, full of a lot of stuff to do. I find that, like, often things happen like that. In fact, that'll probably be a really common theme on this stream, where it's like, making art takes time, and that time doesn't just appear out of nowhere. So you kind of have to juggle this, like, sort of weird balance. And it doesn't mean you should give up any core things, like family health or something like that. I just realized too, this door doesn't open this way. I had the door on the wrong side. So actually this works even better. Oh, I don't want to erase that kind of loose thumbnail of the face here. Okay, so the door should actually be opening like this way. And that's a huge door. It would be more like here. And there we go. And I think I might even work Troy into here with his hat. And sunglasses. Oof. Sunglasses. Beard. Okay. Doesn't look much like him, but that's okay. Once again, just thumbnails. And he's going to be like, bye. Maybe no, he's just going to have his, get that beard in there. Yep, he's just gonna have like arm to the side. Da, da, da. And here he'll have his hand kind of gesturing by. That gets a little bit of a closing to the sequence. Reminds you of the characters that were in it, and so on. Cool. And maybe have a little bit of that couch in there from the previous sequence. And there we go. Now we just have to map it with a little bit of, oh, that wasn't good. Add a little shadow. Not just block out the whole face, but that's going to be a dark bag. There we go. I like this. I actually like this angle. I think it kind of brings it all home. And I think it'll probably amplify like the emotion of it to have the cigarette being put out the last panel. I also realize like the perspective here is insane. Like I have a giant head, but this gives the emotion and the value and kind of like a good indicator of like what I need to do on the final, which I think is fine. So mostly thumbnails are usually for yourself. In this case, I'm trying to do thumbnails that would be okay with a client that almost verge on rough pencils, but they're still a little looser. But the thinking is that, and I'm sure I've talked about this maybe even earlier. The thinking is that like the tighter these are, the more likely it is that it'll save me time in the long run because I won't have to work as much mentally out when it comes to the finished draft. And also, especially when it comes to creating panel borders and type like in a more solid way. So there we go. We are at 37 minutes and I have 2 panels done. So then it's going to have this last one. Actually, I have an artsy thing here that I kind of want to do. I'm going to pull out of the, okay, I need to see the panel that introed this. I had to close that out because that rotation tool, I don't know why it keeps getting stuck on Photoshop. It's kind of strange that it does that. Okay, so here we go. And we have, I have to pull back through previous pages before this whole sequence started where we got to this place. And I think it was page 80. I feel like this whole sequence was most of when I started this, the thumbnails. So it might have been page 80 where we pull up there. Yep, it's page 80. I think. No, it's not page 80. Page 80 was like a little indicator of the location. So page 81, let's try that. Is that it? Yes, I love it. Okay, so this is the weird kind of artsy thing. Okay, I want to use that as reference. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a long, thin panel. This is like the kind of, the nice thing about that show that I'm doing with Corey is we're going to be reviewing comics that had a huge impact on us and our work. And Actually, one thing in limbo that I was noticing was the use of like long, thin, or wide and short panels. And why not? So let's see here. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a crushed up cigarette. It's going to say tss. This will just probably be the Chuck Taylor. And keep in mind, once again, we're just doing kind of loose thumbs. But hopefully this gets the gist across. This will be like the foot kind of putting out the cigarette. I want this to be like the cuff of a pant leg. That might have been too high of a... There we go. Okay, there we go. I need that cigarette to be like half the size because this is just a butt. And then there will be some ash kind of here. And I'm also going to have the smoke sort of trailing up. Okay, we're at 45 minutes and we have the top row sort of worked out. This is definitely going to be darker in the sides. Add a little shadow to my... Okay. And this is where I want to recycle this panel, but use it like long and tall. Oh, did not want that. Okay. Love it. And here we go. We're going to basically close this out. Oh, merge down. And hopefully this will sort of work. The thought is I'm going to have us in the foreground. And we'll be somewhere over here. Oh, I need to have this going down. And we'll see how this goes. So I think having like a yep. Yep, that'll work. I'm actually digging this, and then this will be her holding that leash. Okay. Sometimes if I have to kind of work out a sequence over on a previous panel, I'll kind of have to do that. That actually works. I'll basically use like a color over it that'll kind of block it out. And now we're at, look at that. Coming up on our first hour, and I'm a third through this page. I think this will do pretty nicely. Okay. All right. I'm going to take a very quick coffee refill break. And I'll be back for round 2, but I feel pretty good about this page. It's coming out okay so far. So there we go. Just have to finish it. Okay. Be right back. All right. Oh, coffee. Get coffee real quick. So I am super excited to be able to show you guys the special project I was working on. It came out really cool. Like my brain is halfway there on that project as we speak. Okay, here we go. Now we got to go back to the apartment sequence. So I need to pull open some previous panels from that apartment to try to kind of get, let's see, the establishing shot of the apartment was back on page. This is another place where having like printouts would be extremely helpful. Let's see here. Okay, I think that'll do it. This is the intro to the apartment. So I'm going to pull that apartment panel, and that's going to be there, but it's going to have our car in the foreground. Okay, so keeping my layers nice and organized. Hopefully that kind of works. And this is going to be type up here. So it's going to say my and I headed back to the apartment. I want to make this a little taller. Ooh. I think this next sequence is going to be great though, because it's going to talk about the gun in the duffel bag in a trunk. And so I'm going to try to do like a almost like an x-ray shot of the trunk. I think that'll be cool. And also I don't want this to be an orphan, so I'm going to have it say the apartment. Okay. X-ray panels are kind of fun. I'm not sure how I'm going to execute it yet, but I think it'll be pretty fun. We'll see. Okay. And like I said, if I have like a panel that I need to draw over, especially for rough, it's like the easiest method to do that is just make a panel above it. It's kind of like the trick of like drawing through a character who's wearing a hat, you know. Drawing a car into this would actually be a lot easier. So I'm just going to draw like our Honda. Keep it really loose too. Doesn't need to be like a crazy detailed thing. And this is actually good because it's going to be the trunk of the car that's highlighted. It's usually a 4-door. There we go. Very noodly, quick little gesture here. Do, drawing a car in wobbly loose lines. How are you doing tonight? I am drawing a car with wobbly loose lines, and it is awesome. So it's a relatively late stream, and I just had a stream earlier today, so I'm not expecting a ton of people to show up to this one, but I need to stay consistent and get these things done. these comics will not make themselves. And that's a huge thing, I think, for people who are waiting around for the opportunity to make their comic. Stop waiting. There is no opportunity. There is no time. The time is now, right? Sort of a lesson you start learning in life as you get older. I actually learned that with our kid too, where it's like my wife and I were trying to wait for a long time. We were just like, kind of came to this conclusion we wanted a kid, and then I was really reserved about it for a long time because I was like, well, we need to have like the finances and the budget, and it just became really obvious, like more and more obvious that look at that, there's a car in that panel. Merge down. It just became more and more obvious. So like if we were going to wait for like the perfect conditions, like we never would have a kid, because we just, if we saved up a bunch, then would it be enough? Like you never are really fully ready. And it's not bad to prepare, but there's like a certain extent where you just kind of have to do and then figure it out from there. And that's sort of what we did. And strangely enough, I think that's like the only reason we really ended up making that call. I think if we had waited for like perfect conditions, we would have really missed out on that whole opportunity. Okay, so here we go. So that was my talk about having kids. So this is a different sequence. Anytime you change scenes in a comic, you want to have a setting. Like you want to set the location. So you want to do like a location shot where you kind of show where you're changing locations to. I think that's always very helpful. Okay, and then here I need to do a tiny bit of research. I'm wondering if I should, well, I'm just going to see if there are any cutaway shots of the trunk of a car. Car trunk. Just to see. Images. Ooh, perfect. There are cutaways of trunks. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to find one that's quite where I want it to be. Ooh, okay. This is good. It's not quite where I want it to be. Let me see if I can find it. This might have been it. I wonder if it's being... I just found a site called The Ultimate Car Cutaway. I think... Perfect. Okay, I'm going to put this reference right here so you guys can see it. Otherwise, I just keep it off screen. But I think what I'm going to do, right, you see that? So I'm going to kind of take a look at it and use that to sketch. So it's going to say, okay, here we go. So we're going to make another panel here. It's going to be wide. And I think it's going to be a 2-shot. Okay. This first one's going to say, what is it going to say? The gun. Okay. Gun. Gun. And ammunition. In a duffel bag. Okay, so here I'm gonna do, I need to find my gun and ammunition real quick. This will all make sense shortly, you guys. So I'm gonna do 2 cutaways. I'm gonna do a cutaway of the duffel bag, and then it's gonna cut away of the trunk. But I just have to find a nice good shot of that gun that I've drawn already. Yep. So I've already drawn the gun in this basic gun safety. And it's just a sketch, but it's going to help. And actually, I think that angle is good. Copy, paste, copy pasta. All right, I've copied that pasta. And now we're going to kind of make this happen. And I think I'm going to just draw some all I really need to do is like draw, oh, come on. Cylinders, guys, cylinders. Not that hard to doodle. Okay. And that should give me like a rough approximation of a bullet. A little bit of sparkle. Sparkle bullets. All right. And gonna copy this over multiple times. Make it a little more random. And I want it to have 5 because I feel like just having 4 would feel a little too symmetrical. Life doesn't tend to have perfect symmetry. Even if you draw like a face perfectly symmetrically, people usually think it looks very strange because things are close to symmetrical, but they're never quite perfectly symmetrical. Okay, here we go. And now I'm going to try that little trick I talked about with drawing over. So I'm going to draw like a duffel bag here around this crazy gun. So the duffel bag is going to have like a little strap here. And that's going to lead to another. It's going to kind of stem over here, probably like wrap around the bag. And then it's going to have a zipper. Oh, wrong angle here. It's going to have a zipper. do, 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 do. And the zipper is going to be here. We're going to have it come all the way over here. This will be the interior. I might have to move that a little bit. Zipper is going to be undone. Hold on a sec. Let's undo that zipper. Okay. And I'm going to draw the other side. That's what I should have done to begin with. This might have to be shrunken down a little bit, but that's okay. That's what we do. We shrink things. Okay. Again, just kind of a in here with that connection. And then this is going to connect like that. A little bit more. Okay. Might not be the most helpful thing, but I think that'll help. Yep. We're going to work out that zipper in a second after I kind of do this little lining. Okay. That's important. That's important too. And then we're going to have the lining of the bag. The lining of the bag. Okay. Do. And I know this is like a weird little detail, but I do think it's like in a play, if you want to introduce tension, right, you have like one of the characters has like a knife or one of the characters has a weapon, and then you kind of remind the audience. A perfect example of this, there's like a film called Rope, where it's like it was actually a play, but Hitchcock did a really cool televised version of it, like a movie, not televised, but in it, like it's like there's this tension throughout the entire play of these guys who have an apartment and they just like literally offed someone, and the person is hidden in a in like a chest, like, so the body is hidden in a chest in the apartment, and so through the entire play it takes place in the same room of the apartment, and you're kind of just hoping these guys get caught. But also there's tension because anytime somebody comes close to discovering what's in the chest, like there's tension because it's like what'll happen, right? So it's like a good trope in a play or in a story to have an object you're kind of worried about people finding or something. So, hey, what's up, man? Crimson Owl Comics. You working on comics? You about to head to work? I can never keep track, but I'm imagining, is it close to time for you to head to work? I don't know. How you doing, man? Crimson Owl Comics is working on a pretty awesome comic that I think is like taking place in two different time frames. I think the 1880s and the 1980s, and it sounds like a very like deep story. Here I'm going to just give some indications of this trunk, but it sounds like a really cool story and kind of switches formats, and I think it sounds really cool. I don't know if you managed to catch the did you catch the indie review show? I think you did, but I'd be curious. I thought it went well, but I don't know. I'd be curious to hear your take on it. Let me know. And also, what are you working on? Okay, so here I am. Yeah, this is going to give like some indication. So weird doing cutaways because you kind of have to cheat like a little bit of reality because you're making things a little transparent, but it also is really important that it doesn't fully cheat reality. So it's like people understand what they're looking at. Oh, nice. About to go to work. He said, have to watch on lunch. Yeah, you should check it out. I think it was really good. Corey did a really in-depth walkthrough of the of this book by out from Image Comics called Limbo that is like super inspiring and was cool. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I hope all is well, man. That's cool. So you are heading to work. I think it's cool that because of my weird hours of doing this, does that work as a cutaway? I think that does. Um, that totally works as a cutaway. You kidding me? That's perfect. Um, okay, so I'm gonna merge that down, and now we're gonna do the same thing over here. Last night I worked on an 1800s house. Ooh, that sounds fun. Like a Victorian. I love those buildings. They're one of my favorite things in the world. like, one of the sad things about living in California is you just don't get like the variety of, well, at least in Southern California, you don't get the variety of architecture that you get in like other cities. And I do miss that because like when we lived in Portland, there were like Victorian houses right next to like craftsman era houses. Yep. They're also a beast to draw though. I'd love to see what you crafted, man, cuz like that's a they can be a challenge. But they're also awesome. And like I feel like the basis of a good haunted mansion is a Victorian. So, let's see here. Okay, so this is going to say now in the trunk of the car. Okay, here we go. In the trunk of the car. Exciting times, guys. That's cool though. I'm glad you're still carving at it too. I mean, I really do think the main game of comics is just persistence and just taking it a little at a time, and then you end up with it. Okay, there's my little photo reference right there of a trunk. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I should have kept that. It's too bad I didn't pre-think this, but I should have kept that top layer separate so I don't have to erase out the gun for this next one. This will make more sense in a second. I also like playing with the fact that like diagrammatical illustrations are sort of a form of sequential. Cool. Yeah, send me a shot later. Maybe next live stream or something. I'd love to see it. Yeah, I love doing like historical um, stuff, like costuming, all of that. It's really fun. It's a lot of work, but it's like it also kind of feels like being a detective a little bit. You're like having to kind of hunt down an era and figure out what worked. But then it's funny being a kid who, you know, like grew up in the 80s. I'll see like these films that are like trying to depict the 80s, and it's like this weird kind of cartoony version of the 80s that doesn't reflect at all like the 80s, but kind of has this like sort of overall vibe of like I guess that kind of was the 80s. And I always wonder sometimes when I'm working on historical stuff, like, which I haven't had to do a lot, but it's like I have had to do like historical illustrations and stuff. And I always wonder if somebody from that era like saw it, if they'd be like, "Hey, wait a minute, we don't wear that," like they'd be like, "This guy's crazy. That's not what the 1800s were like, or whatever." But one of the fun things about it is it's almost impossible to get perfectly right, but it is a really good art challenge to kind of um, just to like know what you're what you're kind of depicting. So in this case, I'm going to have this be now a cutaway of the car. I want that trunk to be kind of closed. There we go. And I want to get rid of this. Oh my gosh, am I drawing my trunk on the same layer? I was just talking about this trick, and I'm not even using it, which is silly. Okay, so this is going to be merged down. Okay, a little draw through trick. This is great for, I used to have to do, when I was freelancing a lot, I used to do stuff for Women's Health magazine in Australia. And there's this one art director who was having me do kind of isometric workout illustrations. uh, um, and some of them would be like a cutaway of like a building where it's showing how somebody's using their house to like do workouts or something. And this trick helped me quite a lot with that. Where it's like, it's helpful to have a trick to kind of be able to draw around. That's the easiest way, at least that I've found, to do like cutaways. All right, so here's my trunk. This trunk that I'm like looking at is not the same kind of trunk, but it gives me like a visual cue of like what I have to work out. I hope that makes sense, but it's like just being able to see something dimensionally. There's a couple things that are similar. It's not even the same car, but it's like, as long as I can get a vibe of like what I need here. And once again, this is a thumbnail, so I'm kind of working out what I need early on. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Let's get rid of that reference. Although I like that reference, so I'm going to store that for a future date if I ever have to pull it up again. Wow, that's what happens when I close out Photoshop for a second. Okay. Oh, nice. Crimson Owl does have a panel done for the 1800s. He'll send it now. I'm excited. I'm gonna check that out. Okay, let's see here. And do you mind if I? Ooh, let me see. Did it show up? Yeah. Thank you, Ronnie. Okay. I think. Oh, that's cool. I dig that. I also dig. Do you mind if I show that on the stream, Ronnie? I don't want to like share your art without permission or something. But I'll pop it on the stream if you want me to show it. That's really cool, and that actually gives. Yeah, so this is cool. I'm gonna throw this on here. So Ronnie gave the okay. Okay, so yeah, that's really cool, Ronnie. That's cool. That helps me kind of visually put together what you're doing too, where you're gonna have black and white and then color. That's really cool. Jeez, that's gonna be an awesome comic, man. I also like the style, like a interesting vibe to it. Kind of like the heavy line with sort of painterly color. That's cool. Very cool. All right. So this is going to be the car. Kind of trying to do this super quick. And we might be like further than the halfway point pretty soon. And then here, this is going to be like a semblance of, hey, you're welcome, dude. It's just cool to see. I find it inspiring. Like one of the things I like about the indie review show that Corey and I are doing too is like it's just important to like enjoy other people's work and also be inspired by it, because like if you lose touch with that, then you've kind of lost touch with art, you know. And so like you don't want to lose touch with the thing that made you love comics to begin with. And so I think like one of the fun things about us doing this indie review show, which you can check out at irsagency.com. I kid you not, we actually got that URL. but yeah, like the fun thing about that is it's sort of like also going to force us to have to read the comics that we bought long time ago, a lot of them, and kind of really analyze them and remember what it is that we love about them, you know? So I think, and like what it is in it that we pull for our own work and um, like what inspires us about them and stuff. And I think that's really cool. So my point is, I'm always happy to see other cartoonists out there rocking it, fighting the fight, because it keeps me motivated to like keep at this crazy business. How weird is that for a cutaway? I think that works. So we got gun and ammunition in duffel bag, right? It's like a cutaway, and then it's going to say in the trunk of the car. So there's the duffel bag in the trunk. It's a little tense. Okay, I think that works. Okay, so now that we're at the like halfway point of the page, I'm going to take like a 2-second coffee refill break and then finish it up. I'm pretty excited, making good progress, getting inventive with the pages, doing some cutaway illustrations. The next few panels should be fun. So stick around and yeah, I'll be right back. Let's see here. All right, so I'm going to power through. Oh, I was going to get coffee. Hang on. I did kind of a top secret illustration. I can't wait to share with you, Ronnie, and share with everybody. But I won't be able to till like the end of the month, and I'm excited about it. Came out pretty cool, but it sucked up a lot of my time. But it was fun. Like I hand inked it, and it's nice to get back to inking. Is like doing these thumbnails. It's hard to stay at it and not want to start going to final and inks and stuff because I'm used to this different workflow. And this is different for me to like map out the entire book in thumbs. But it was really fun and relevant to our community. So I think it'll be fun to share when I can. I always hate like having something I can't share because I like working transparently. You know, it helps me stay on task too. But it was well worth it, and I think it'll be rewarding when I can share it. Okay, so this is going to be another interesting. I think I'm gonna. It's like the part of me that wants to go to bed wants to make this like a lot less panels, but I think it needs to be like a long row of panels, and it's going to be like a zoom sequence. So let's see here. So this is going to say I couldn't sleep. Okay, bear with me. This might make more sense in a second. So just draw an eye here. Okay. If all panels were eyes, they'd take no time at all. Okay, but this will be cool. Let's see. Okay. There's frame one. Now let's do frame two. I think this is going to be good, actually. I feel like extra pumped because that Limbo book that we reviewed had some really cool long and thin panels, and I liked it. Got me in the vibe to do some long and thin panels. Oh, there is one thing I have to do real quick before knocking out these, and that's going to be to find, let's see here. Oh my goodness, I have to go back to like page 50-ish, maybe even before that, because now I have to show our apartment interior, which we have not been in since page, oh my gosh, like 53. Okay. I have like this nice overhead shot that I made. Copy it. And then I'm going to close this out. And boom. Okay. I just want that for reference as I'm kind of pulling out of the frame. It's probably not even going to be used that much, but what I might do too, so I can see it and have it over, have it over these, is like just make a little background panel, fill that, and then put it under and merge down. Because otherwise it's going to be like transparently sitting over those other ones, and that's really hard to kind of see. Okay, so that gives me the landscape, the layout of the land, so I know where I'm working here. One of the hardest things with sequential art is it's easy to get like an illustration. Well, it's not easy, but it's like, you know, that Top Secret project was like a one-off illustration, and it was such a like just it was very fun and relaxing to just work with like something you only have to draw once. You don't have to like turn it around. I just saw that low battery warning. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can correct that camera real quick. Okay. There we go. Back on. Fixed. Okay. So yeah, so it was just like there's something really cool about just a single illustration. It was like it almost felt like cheating, where it was like I don't have to redraw this like these characters. It's kind of fun, and it's an art of its own. But it's just like the tough thing with sequential and the puzzle of it is trying to redraw the same characters and in an interesting way and in repeated environments from multiple angles. That's like kind of the beast of the beast of comics. Maybe I'll call that. Maybe that's what I'll title this episode. I don't know. Okay. Here we go. Now we got to get back to I sat. Okay. And see, this is good because this, like, I'm trying to think of where I can position this. And I think on that couch is where this is going to be sitting. And we'll see that speaker here. And then you're going to see the TV here, like an old school rabbit ears poster. And there we go. Okay, so block in this information. This is very fun though. It's fun to think of these sequences that'll kind of pace it out and make it more impactful for the story. Because the idea here is like to try to kind of play up like the tension he's feeling because he literally thinks his neighbor could like break in at any time and like murder him. So it's going to be interesting doing this sequence. This is like a Pulp Fiction poster, which I'm just going to rough in. Most people seeing these thumbnails will not know this is a Pulp Fiction poster. I think it's just like Uma doing her thing with like a cigarette. I used to have that poster in our old apartment. Okay, so here we go. Totally just blocking in. Not going to spend a ton of time on this. Okay. And then we got a couch corner. That's not going to make a lot of sense at first for people, but that's okay. Okay. Because that actually kind of will help this shot work, I think. Because at first you're going to see Okay. So I've managed to bring back the eternal zoom. I was kind of teasing a couple streams ago, like the McFarlane tendency to like zoom out like to a ridiculous extent as like a framing device. And then the set, like it's almost like by just even talking about it, it made me realize like that's actually a pretty good framing device. So I shouldn't clown on it because it's actually pretty cool narratively to kind of do change up perspective a little bit, make people have a moment. Because like in art and sequential art, like there's this huge thing of like it's really important to try to give people like an aha moment, like you want to assume a lot of your audience so that they can have a moment, like all of us have like watched movies that are kind of, it's almost like they talk down to you, they spell things out too much. And there's something really cool about like watching a movie that lets you figure it out, that like, you know, I like that. It's looking cool. Having small little things can always set the time period, even with a poster. That's true. Okay. Now this is going to do that eternal zoom thing. I think again. I'm going to, let's see, in there. Oh, thin that out a little bit. Actually, that works. This will be a little bit wider. Once again, we're doing rough, so don't need to be perfect here. Although, it'd be nice if that was a little darker. Okay, so it's going to say set it's a loaded gun. Okay. All right, man. Have a good one. Thanks, Ronnie, for sharing what you're working on too. It's cool. Appreciate you stopping by the stream. All right, so here we go, and we're almost done with this sequence. And I want to zoom out more, so it's going to now be maybe even more. Yep. I think this is going to work for like the narrative device of like kind of building tension and stuff. Have a good day at work, Ronnie, if you're still watching. I think this can work as a really good narrative device here because it's like it is kind of crazy. Oh, why am I drawing that arm? That would be blocked off. Okay, still gonna have that. It's gonna show like the same thing. This is gonna give it a little bit of perspective, right? Where it's like you're gonna actually start seeing a little bit of the window. And I just think like for narrative impact, it's important to like try to kind of think like what's going to make people like kind of feel the scenario. And it's like I think having it kind of slowly zoom out and reveal that it's a person like sitting at an apartment complex, you know. I just think this is going to be very, very helpful for that like emotional impact. So then it's going to have that same poster. Once again, we're just kind of thumbnailing, so it's not needing to be tight or anything. So there we go. And I think that works. So add a little tone. Just to like figure out the lighting. Do you like the idea of this being kind of dark? A little darker up top. And look at this, we're almost done. And we're at like 2 hours now, which is kind of cool. So just one panel left. And this one's going to say, and that's kind of like I was planning, hopefully. This is going to say, this is going to say just waiting for that neighbor Hi. Here's where I really am going to have to look at that. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to have it kind of revealing. He's right here with the gun, and it's right here. That this is the couch. That there's a TV here. Oh wait, TV's a little lower. Poster is a little smaller. There's a side poster here. Okay, getting all those little details in there. And this is going to be the big reveal of like the door. Yep. I actually dig this. That's a pretty powerful sequence, I think. So that's going to be the door frame. And that's our door with all the locks. That's like top. Oh. This one, deadbolt, regular lock. There we go. And we have that. Perfect. Okay, now let's get some detail in there. And then we can actually wrap up the stream. I'm kind of excited. I was a little worried because we did the Corey and I did our indie review show today, and I was worried I wouldn't get to finishing. I'm pretty excited and think that that's pretty cool. Like that I'm actually going to be able to get some pages done. Finally kind of get back on track with the weekend. So, all right. There we go. And there's some hands. Pow. Have it like real long there. Love it. I am really happy with this. Okay. So now we've got like this kind of mocked up. This is going to be the corner of the couch. Can't remember. Oh, okay. The corner of the couch actually should be more like that. Okay. And then there's the TV again. Got little things here. Here's our poster. Okay. Our other poster. Edge. There we go. I'm actually pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out. So then we've got this. It's going to go down to here. That's going to be his arm. Let's get this kind of more worked out. And then I think we can call this a stream. So we have rowed our boat gently down the stream. And merrily, hopefully I will be dreaming soon. It's like the worst pun. But I'm allowed to make bad puns because I'm a dad, so you kind of earn the right. It's a weird thing that happens. Start being driven to make terrible puns. It's almost like a job for a dad to make the bad pun that makes their kid go, come on. Okay. Here we go. And I'm going to add some shadow here. Have like the, what's the carpet look like? Okay. Oh, I want to see that. Did I delete the old panel? I'm going to guess this carpet is filthy. Okay. We need to have this more tightly rendered. And there we go. That'll be good enough. And a little bit of lighting. And this is going to have like a very flat pass. This might actually have a little bit of a flat pass too. Cool. Save. Let's zoom out and you can see the page. I post these to Instagram when I'm done, so you can check it out at joshuakemble.com, and that'll wrap it for today's stream. So yeah, cool. See you guys. Oh, if you haven't yet either, and you're kind of curious about this comic, go to amazon.com and purchase 2 Stories Book 1. It's out from Marcosia. They released it in December. And I am knee-deep in Book 2, and that'll do it for thumbnails for page 91. So thanks to anyone who's watched the stream. And yeah, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit that bell, because that'll give you a notification when I'm about to go live, because these streams kind of happen at different odd hours whenever I have time to work. So thanks everybody who tuned in, and I will see you guys probably tomorrow. Bye.